Howdy lads and lasses, it's the Lonely Rogue here with more Kerbal Space Program. Now in this part, we're going to be doing a Minmus flyby. Very similar to our moon flyby, however, Minmus is a bit further out, so it will take more delta V. Now, we're doing that so that we can unlock this general construction tech node and the fuel systems tech node to allow for the construction of my Rogue 2 spacecraft, which will give me much more delta V to do other missions. However, even in this next mission, in the next part here, we're still going to be using the Rogue 1. So, if I don't quite have enough science, I should still be fine. However, I'm confident that I will have enough. This is one of my designs with a heat shield, and the heat shield, I determined, takes up too much of my payload mass and, eats away at my delta V. There you go. And launch. So, right at about 70 meters per second, I'm going to start a gravity turn, because with this higher thrust-to-weight ratio, compared to when I was launching it with the heat shield, I can afford to do my gravity turn much earlier than what I had thought when in my previous launches. So I'm going to go ahead and start this turn. I want to get to about 75 degrees there. And then I'm going to switch Jebediah over into this prograde SAS mode that we unlocked when he leveled up. There we go. But I'm also going to tap the W key here every once in a while so that this prograde marker lowers a bit faster. And then once we cross the 50 degree mark, I'm going to tap the S key so that it will stay at about there. There we go. Gotta keep this up. Now, I'm being a bit aggressive here with this, but it should work out. So long as I can use this bottom stage to get out of the majority of the atmosphere, my top stage will be efficient enough to where I will gain fuel efficiency from having left the atmosphere at such a high angle of attack, or low angle of attack rather, comparatively. Because the closer to this horizon down here that I burn, the more velocity I have going forward into my orbit, which means that I don't have to do as much of a burn to circularize. Alright, now let's check our altitude here, 50,000 meters. So we're going to have to do some burning down here. I'm going to get to about 80 kilometers up before I stop this burn here. Cut off. Alright, we've got about 2,100 meters per second of delta V remaining, which should be more than enough to circularize and proceed into our Minmus flyby. Let's go ahead and go into Jebediah's view here and see what he's looking at. Just look at that. That's just the kind of thing you can't see from the ground. Unless you're way out in the country, like I am, I guess. It's amazing. Alright, I'm going to drop a quick save here. And I'm going to go ahead and time warp up to the apoapsis marker here. Alright, and I'm going to start my burn at about 20 seconds. I'm going to turn it from prograde to stability SAS so that I've got a slightly higher angle of attack and I can hold off on approaching my apoapsis marker quite as quickly as 20 seconds. This gives me the best of both worlds when it comes to going into a much more circular orbit, while also allowing me to start my burn much earlier. Alright, I'm going to start throttling down, and I'm going to switch over to prograde here. Throttle down. And I'm going to hold this here until 2,000 meters per second, and then I'm going to throttle down quite a bit so that I can get closer to my apoapsis marker. And then I'm going to keep it somewhere between 5 and 10 seconds to apoapsis, if I can. Because that will allow me much more precise maneuvers. Alright, so our periapsis is now out of the atmosphere. How much delta V do we have? 1,177 meters per second. And that should be more than enough to allow for a Minmus flyby. So, at our time of launch here, the descending node right here has our best encounter. It's not always the case, but it is this time. Right, and then we're going to drag it over here. No, that's the wrong way. Drag it this way. Right, now it looks like we can reduce the amount of delta V expenditure. If we can lower this periapsis here to below the atmosphere into a free return trajectory, but we can't quite do that. We're going to have to go the other way. There we go. So now I'm going to switch over to the stability assist and move over to this maneuver node target. Right, and now I'm going to warp to our maneuver node. And I'm going to drop a quick save just in case. And I'm going to go ahead and switch this to following the prograde again, because that's more or less what the burn is. It's just a standard prograde burn. And while we will lose some efficiency from having not followed this maneuver node exactly, in the words of Scott Manley, well, that really doesn't matter. I believe it was in one of his Galileo Conquest episodes that he said that. Alright, I'm going to start this burn. Alright, so at this point I don't need the maneuver node, and the points that it provides are just going to get in the way, so I'm going to delete it. And then I'm going to slowly burn until I get my encounter. And then I'm going to burn up until my periapsis, or my projected periapsis at least, lowers till about 45,000. To do that, I'm going to want to lower my thrust limiter here to around 10%. There we go. And now let's just slightly burn. There we go. I wonder what's changing this. It's probably my stability assist here rotating my craft. It's not how real physics works, but it is how Kerbal physics works. Something about the minute changes messes it up. It's very interesting, though. In any case, I'm going to go ahead and warp until I'm around Kerbin and back into the sunlight between Minmus and Kerbin. There we go. And now I'm going to rotate my craft to where the solar panels are receiving light. And I'm going to time warp so that we don't have to sit through, what's it say, 1 day and 8 hours real time of a transfer here. Well, see, this is exactly why I quick save. It appears that time warping messed up our encounter. Alright, well, this is where I should be cutting back to. So as you can see, I'm back more or less where I was, and even though I had set for a free return trajectory, if you look, it has actually changed from a 45,000 meter return into the atmosphere to a 224,000 meter return into orbit, but that's fine. I'm sure it'll work out. I'm going to go ahead and quick save one more time, and then I'm going to try again with this time warp because, like I said, it's pretty gnarly having to sit through the whole day and 8 hours. And if you look, it changed my orbit again when I time warped. I don't know what's going on with that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to load this quick save and see if I can't get it to still give me that 180,000 periapsis, because, well, that's low enough for more than one bracket of science. And looks like it. And yeah. All right. Quick save. I'm just gonna click this warp to sphere of influence button. And wow, that's really slow. I don't want to go in that slow. And that is 172,000 meter periapsis. Alright, let's go ahead and quick save one more time. And we're going to take this log temperature. We're going to transmit it. We're going to click on this here and hit allow partial, so that if we don't have enough electricity here for the barometer, as I'm starting to suspect we won't, it will still send it. Oh, as you can probably tell, one of the mods that I have installed is a 100% return rate for science from transmitters, because I don't think it makes sense that your data doesn't tell you everything about the experiment when you have a trained astronaut at the helm. Let's time warp down. Oh, I should go ahead and take the log, though. Time warp until our batteries are full again. And now let's transmit. As you can see, we only had enough charge for 2/3 of that. So that would be why I did the allow partial. Let's log pressure data and see if we can't transmit some more of this. That's fine. How long until we reach our periapsis there? An hour and 40 minutes. That should be more than enough time. Unless I just overdid it with the time warp there. Let's see if I can send that. No, it seems that it does the same thing every time, and it's only going to give me a fraction of my thing there. That's fine. This is still the same. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to gather that 0.3 science. Right, this is the same. Take data. Because every drop of science counts. For now, at least. Alright, this should be enough for low orbit science. It might not be, but I'm hoping. Looks like that's still space high over. Let's see if the EVA report is different, though. Nope, looks like it's the same too. That's okay. Let's go ahead and transmit some of our data here, like this crew report. just in case Jebediah burns and dies on the atmosphere on our return. And the EVA report there. There we go. Now let's go ahead and warp to our Sphere of Influence exit. And we've got 22,000 meters there. That just won't do. We'll need to burn retrograde a bit, just the tiniest little puff. Okay, maybe not tiny, but pretty small. How far away? Well, I might explain a bit of that. It'll be more efficient if I wait till I'm already all the way at the apoapsis. There we go. I'm also on 10% thrust still. Alright, I'm going to leave this at about 48,000, I think. Here we go. And then we're going to go ahead and warp down there because it shouldn't mess up our thing there. And while it's warping, I'm going to turn our thrust limiter back up to 100%. Oh, I can't do that while I'm warping. Okay. There we go. Let's see. I'm going to want to go ahead and quick save here in case this does something unexpected. But we have 48,000 meters there, and look at that. It's lowering pretty fast, but we want to lower it as fast as possible. Just so we don't skip way out of the atmosphere and have to wait several days before we come back. Alright, there we go. We've burnt off our extra fuel and lowered our apoapsis there. Back to reasonable levels. And we have also lowered our velocity here for our return. As you can see, the heat shield would have been really nice for this return. With the velocity we've got, there is a chance, however small, that we will burn up. And look how close it's getting for some of these parts. I don't doubt that we'll lose at least one of them. Probably the thermometer again. Yeah, looks like it. It's okay, because it doesn't look like the capsule itself is anywhere near overheating. And we've already transmitted all our science. See, our apoapsis is lowering steadily. And we're now lifting back out of the atmosphere, where we'll have a chance to cool off some of our pieces and come back in much slower. Look at that, temperature gauges are already going down. But without the thermometer, I can't tell exactly what temperature we're at. I can't tell you the atmosphere, though. Minimal. In vacuum. See? There we go. Alright, now let's warp back around. In my first test run of this mission, I did not skip back out of the atmosphere, and I very nearly lost Jebediah. It was a very, very close call. So, I decided that this time I would make it a bit less of a close call and arrange for that atmosphere skip. So you just bounce right off and come in much slower there, because that's just regular orbital velocity, more or less, and that's pretty easy to do even without a heat shield in this particular capsule. Looks like we might land just on the other side of that mountain there. Although maybe we're going a lot faster than I thought we were. Just for a glimpse of how this would look from inside the capsule. I had to turn down the particle effects in the settings for recording purposes because I was losing frames and that wasn't good. Let's go ahead and see if a crew report is in order. Nope. We still have a barometer here. And apparently we did not have flying at Kerbin data. Let's exit time warp, thanks. The ground was coming up real fast there. I thought I might lose Jebediah. If it weren't for the fact that everything takes forever to get to in space, I would probably never use time warp, just because of how finicky it is. I think next time I'm going to take the monopropellant out of our capsule before we launch, because we don't really have any use for that right now without RCS engines. And it does give us some mass, about 50 kilograms if I remember correctly. Shouldn't make too much difference, but every kilogram counts when you're launching something into space. As a matter of fact, it's about $10,000 per kilogram, I believe, to launch on one of SpaceX's rockets. So, you know, it does make that difference. Let's go ahead and grab this science from landing here. I clicked the EVA button. Why weren't you getting out? There we go. Let's recover vessel. Alright, let's go ahead and snag general construction here. And fuel systems. Next, I believe we'll be getting propulsion systems, then miniaturization, and then we'll get advanced electrics for these foldable solar panels there. From there, it would probably be best to get this and this to unlock the science lab for our first space station. But to launch that, I will need heavy rocketry here for the larger liquid fuel engine. And from there, I might take a gander into the aircraft tree, because while I'm terrible at making aircraft, some of these small nose cones, and this here in particular, I use for rovers quite often. And this larger heat shield and the landing struts could be very helpful. But all of that will have to wait for next time, where I will be launching a probe out of Kerbin's sphere of influence and into orbit around the sun. I hope you've enjoyed as much as I have, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.